Good day and welcome to this week's episode of the ACS Library. My name is Kyle and my goal is to help in preparing for the private pilot airplane single-engine land check ride. Additionally, I hope these videos can help in preparing for a flight review, other check rides, or everyday flying. Today's episode covers record keeping. We will be looking at FAR 6151 over logging ground and flight time, FAR 6159 over logbook information falsification, and FAR 6160 over change of address. FAR 6151 Alpha states that pilots must document and record any training and aeronautical experience requirements for a certificate, rating, or flight review, and any aeronautical experience required for meeting a recent flight experience requirement. More or less, this means that you'll want to log any experience that goes towards preparing for a check ride, or any time that goes towards the flight review every 2 years, or your 90-day currency rules, both discussed in the previous video. Moving beyond 6151 Alpha further explains what we need to enter in our logbooks and defines the different types of pilot times. We will break the logbook information required down into 3 parts: general information, type of flight experience or training, and conditions of flight. General information includes the date, location, and duration of the flight, as well as the type and identification of the aircraft flown or simulator. The date of the flight is easy to determine. Location is typically logged airport to airport. For example, if we flew from Provo to Salt Lake City's airport, we would enter this as the identifier for Provo, followed by an arrow pointing towards the identifier for Salt Lake City. The duration is identified as the difference between the beginning and ending Hobbs times. The Hobbs time is started by oil pressure or activation of the alternator. The Hobbs time may run up to 20% faster than the takt timer, which is engaged by engine RPMs. The higher the RPMs, the faster the takt timer runs. The quicker the engine, the quicker the ticker. Haha. Lastly, the type aircraft can be logged as C-172 for Cessna 172, for example, and the identification number is also known as the aircraft's end number or tail number, November 123 Alpha Bravo, for example. Moving on to logging the type of experience or training, we start with solo time, which can be defined as any time you're the sole occupant of the aircraft. You can't even bring your girlfriend who has never flown or your pet goldfish. Pilot in command, or PIC time, can be defined as that time when you are the sole manipulator of the controls, or flying solo, or if a type certification or the regulations under which the flight is conducted require more than one flight crew member. One example that many may already be familiar with is the possibility of both occupants of an aircraft logging PIC time, one as safety pilot and the other under simulated instrument conditions. Additionally, both pilots may log PIC time in the instruction environment, except as a student pilot. Second in command time, or SIC time, cannot be logged by a private pilot. As this won't apply to most watching this video, I will not cover it. It can be researched further in Part 6151 Foxtrot. Flight instruction or dual received can be logged any time that a person is instructed by a CFI and must be endorsed by that CFI, including a description of the training given, the instructor's signature, cert number, and certificate expiration date. Conditions of flight are going to include whether the flight was performed during daytime or night flight. Nighttime is between the end of evening civil twilight and the beginning of morning civil twilight, defined as a time when the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon. At this time, objects must be illuminated to be distinguishable. You may log nighttime during this time. Time under visual, simulated instrument, or actual instrument conditions. Simulated instrument conditions can be any time you are wearing foggles or a hood, and actual is any time you are actually in IFR condition. And finally, the category and class aircraft flown or simulator used. For instance, a Cessna 172 or DA-40 would fall into the airplane single-engine land category and class. Moving on to FAR 6159, the regulation essentially states that you may not provide fraudulent or falsified information. This one is easy to keep up with. Just don't lie and you should be fine. Lastly, FAR 6160 states that no person who has moved may act as PIC unless they report the move to the feds within 30 days of the moving date. This is very simply done at the FAA website, faa.gov. As always, thank you for listening. I hope that the video is helpful and not too boring. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like, following, or subscribing. Feedback is always appreciated in the comments, and if you know somebody who may find this helpful, please consider sharing with them. Fly safe.